Alright, so this lesson is on the laws of exponents. And we're going to do 2 laws today and 3 laws in the next lesson. So, starting off, you don't need to write this down. We're going to do so many, hopefully you'll remember it. So this is called the product of powers. And what it means is that when you're multiplying 2 variables with the same base, or 2 numbers that are the same, if they have exponents, we add the exponents. So you're going to keep the base and add the exponents. So you're probably like, what the heck is she talking about? Let me show you. So here's an example. I would write this one down just so that you'll have it in your notes. X to the 3rd times x to the 6th. X is our base. Okay, so I'm going to leave it an x. And they're multiplying. And the rule is that when we multiply, we add the exponents. So 3 plus 6 is 9. So that's going to be x to the 9th. Okay, again, they're both A's, so my answer is going to be an A. Now, this one's a little bit different because this first one, it doesn't have an exponent. So if there is no exponent, we always put a 1 there. And again, the rule is that if they're multiplying, you add them. So 1 plus 5 is 6. All right, what if there are whole numbers out front? Whole numbers, you use the same rules that you've used your whole life. So I'm going to do 2 times 3. Whole number times whole number. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay. I'm going to bring my m over because that's my base. And you add the exponents. So 4 plus 6 is 10. So let me run through that one more time. I multiplied my whole numbers. They follow the same rules that we've done forever. 2 times 3 is 6. I brought my m over. And the rule is that if they're multiplying, you add exponents. And 4 plus 6 is 10. Okay, what if there's not, one has a whole number or one has an integer and the other one doesn't? Well, we're going to put a 1 here, right? Okay, so let's multiply those. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. That's my whole numbers. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. This A doesn't have an exponent. I'm going to put a 1 there, right? You always put 1s if there's no exponent. Okay, and we have A's and B's. Well, we can only add the A exponents together, and then we can only add the B exponents together. So let's add the A's. I have a 1 and a 6. 1 plus 6 is 7. Now we're going to add our B's. B's have the 4 and the 3, and 4 plus 3 is also 7. So let me work through that slowly one more time. I put a 1 in front of this A. It has a whole number of a 1. And I did negative 4 times 1 and got negative 4. This A did not have an exponent, so I put a 1 there. And the rule is that if they're multiplying, you add exponents. So I did 1 plus 6 and got 7 for my A's. And the B's, I did 4 plus 3 and got 7. All right, let's do another one. I'm going to multiply these numbers out front. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. This m has no exponent, so I'm going to put a 1. I'm going to add these m's. So my m is going to be 1 plus 5, which is 6. Now, there's no n over here to combine, so I'm just going to bring that n to the 3rd over. So I multiplied 7 times negative 2 and got negative 14. I added my m's. 1 plus 5 is 6. There was not another n, so I just brought that n over. Alright, so that's the rule for multiplying. Power to power means you're going to have an exponent inside the parentheses and you're going to have an exponent outside of the parentheses. And if that's the case, then we multiply them. So let me show you an example. Again, I have k to the 5th inside the parentheses and then it's to the 9th on the outside. So I'm going to leave my k as a k. And the rule is you multiply. 5 times 9 is 45. So that's going to be k to the 45. Okay, what if there's like lots of exponents, right? Well, we just multiply, and I'm going to work my way in. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. So it's really 3 to the 12th. Now, you could also work your way from the inside out. Let me show you that we'll get the exact same thing. I'll do this one in red. If I did 2 times 3, I would get 6. And then if I did 6 times 2, I would get 12. So it's still 3 to the 12th. Okay, what if there's more than one thing inside? Well, just like before, if there's no exponent, we always put a 1 there, right? And that 4 on the outside is going to multiply to both of them. So I'm going to have x to the 1 times 4 is 4. I'm going to have y to the 1 times 4 is 4. Again, this b gets a 1, the a gets a 1, so does the 6. That 6 is also going to get a 1. And this 3 is going to multiply to all 3 of those. So I'm going to get 6 to the 1 times 3 is 3. I'm going to get a to the 1 times 3 is 3. I'm going to get b to the 1 times 3 is 3. Now, your EOC might leave your answer like this, or they might reduce 6 to the third. Let me show you what I mean. If you got your calculator and did 6, this button right here underneath clear, that gives you an exponent. So 6 raised to the third is 216. So they might write their answer as 216 a to the third, b to the third. Both answers are fine, okay? And on the worksheet, I'll accept either one. Well, actually, it's multiple choice, so pick the right one. Okay, again, this gets a 1, the x gets a 1, so does the negative 2. And this 4 goes to all 3 of them. So I really have negative 2 to the 1 times 4 is 4. I have x to the 1 times 4 is 4. And I have y to the 1 times 4 is 4. Now, I do want to show you how to simplify this negative 2 to the 4th. If you ever have a negative, right, you need to put it inside of a parentheses before you do an exponent. Watch, here's what I mean. If I do negative 2 in parentheses, and I raise it to the 4th, I get 16, positive 16. That is the right answer. But what if you had forgotten to put the parentheses, and you just did negative 2 to the 4th? Well, your calculator is smart, but it's not really that smart. It told you it was negative 16, which is not right, okay? Because what it does is it does the 2 to the 4th, and then it puts the negative in. Whereas we wanted to do negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, okay? So if you have a negative, always put it in parentheses before you do your exponent. So the real answer is going to be 16, x to the 4th, y to the 4th. Okay, and I promise you on your EOC, if you have a question like this, one of the answers they're going to put negative 16, just to make sure that you understand to put parentheses around a negative. All right, here's another one. The z has an exponent, the y does not, so I'm going to put a 1 there. The x does, and the 5 does not, so I'm going to put a 1 there. This 4 goes to everything. So let's start with the 5. 5 to the 1 times 4 is 4. Let's go to the x next. 2 times 4 is 8. Let's go to the y. 1 times 4 is 4. Let's go to the z. 4 times 3 is 12. And the only thing left to do, 5 to the 4th, I'm not sure what that is, 5 to the 4th is 625. So final answer is 625, x to the 8th, y to the 4th, z to the 12th. All right, putting everything that we've done today together. These all get ones, ones, ones. That's always what I do first. I put ones on everything. And I'm going to take care of this first parentheses. So I'm going to do 2 times 2 times 2. So I'm going to have negative 5 to the second. 1 times 2 is 2. I'm going to have r to the second. 1 times 2 is 2. And I'm going to have m to the second. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay? Now let's do this parentheses. I'll do this one in red. So again, I'm going to multiply the 2, multiply the 2, multiply the 2. So I'm going to have 2 to the second, because 1 times 2 is 2. I'm going to have r to the 6, because 3 times 2 is 6. I'm going to have m to the 8, because 4 times 2 is 8. Now I'm going to take care of these numbers, so I'm going to do negative 5 to the second. Remember, if it's a negative, put it in parentheses. So I'm going to do negative 5 raised to the second. That gives me 25. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 to the second also while I got my screen up. So 25 and 4. So I have 25, r squared, m squared, and I have 4, r to the 6th, m to the 8th. Okay, now let's multiply. 25 times 4, right? Because if they're right beside each other, that means multiply. 25 times 4 is 100. Now, think back to the first rule. These r's are multiplying. And if they multiply, you add the exponent. So it's actually going to be r to the 8, not 12. We're adding 2 plus 6 to get 8. And it's going to be m to the 10. 2 plus 8 is 10. So that's my final answer. Let's do another kind of hard one like that. Why don't you guys pause this and try and do it, and then we'll check your answer. So first thing you should have done is put ones on everything. I'm going to do this 2 to 2 to 2. So I'm going to get negative 3 to the second. 1 times 2 is 2. X to the second. 1 times 2 is 2. And y to the 8. 4 times 2 is 8. Same thing here. I'm going to get negative 6 to the second. I'm going to get x to the 8. I'm going to get y to the second. Now I'm going to take care of these. Negative 3 to the second. You should have put it in parentheses. Negative 3 squared is 9. Oops. And negative 6 squared is 36. So I have 9 x squared y to the 8. And I have 36 x to the 8th y to the second. Okay, multiply our whole numbers. 9 times 36. You should have gotten 324. And your x's, you should add them because they're multiplying. 2 plus 8 is 10. And your y's, again, you should add them. 8 plus 2 is also 10. So your final answer is 324, x to the 10, y to the 10. I think that's it. Yep. So go try your worksheet and let me know if you need help.